I did not really think we were gonna get some weird transition side piece over to what's going on with the hands in such depth. I'm very much open to this because it's a very interesting twist in the world building and setting up just general like large scale events in the plot of Elentir because we've been sidetracked by doing stuff that has like obviously to do with like Selene messing around, doing the whole stuff in Mount Black Moon, returning members of the main cast into the Yokai, just see them kind of put them in the problems and see how they get through them and stuff. Like everything around that has been entertaining. It's been fun, and you know, obviously it's like led to some good character stuff and moments that are important. But we do have to keep in mind the fact that they're on this mission, obviously after Selene and the things that Selene is affecting. And I do want to say, like, just kind of like going into the chapter, one of the things that primarily I was most focused on, like very heavily focused on, was what was going to happen with Selene in that portal. Like, would Natsu show up before she got through? Because at that point, I was just like, well, what would she do then? Because if she gets fully captured, how would she in any way really have a means of escape? If we put him in a scenario where they somehow captured Selene, like they would have to do so much just to keep her from escaping the second she kind of gets back into like a good state, like when she gets back to being healed up and stuff. Because magic, like sealing magic, is only going to do so much to a dragon because she also has her innate dragon abilities and she has her physical strength. So like even if you put her in like those magic sealing cuffs, she'll just break out of them. So like if they somehow figured out a way to constrain her, it would be to such a degree that it wouldn't really feel the same as her being like she wouldn't have that same level of threat. Like they would have to do so much and hinder her so much that at that point it'd be like, well, what point are we gonna really feel threatened by her? How's she gonna escape? But she ended up getting away. Suzaku did follow her. I thought that was a really interesting just set in general decisions because I was hoping she was going to get away. I was hoping she was going to get away and we're going to have some form of like hand her over to her and see if she's going somewhere to heal or like what her scheme's doing. But we did get the information that she's not in Elentir. So she didn't just go back to Mount Black Moon. So I thought she was going to like go to her whole like big open air bath spring and get in it, and it was going to reveal that like that water can heal her or something. She'd pretty much get like a Lazarus pit or some kind to return her to a more kind of like healthy state, get all of her wounds fixed, and put her back to where she normally is. I will definitely say that this was to, at least to me, I would say probably the most interesting outside of the Alta Face potential reveal, because that one's really cool, but I think everything with Alta Face is going to be way more intriguing and way more interesting once we get to like its actual role in the arc, rather than just it existing. It existing is really cool. Like it looks badass, like spooky badass. It's just very creepy to look at. It looks like a grotesque deity of some kind, but the fact Selene is not in Elentir means that wherever she's going has to be somewhere very important to her, like something very important to like her existence. If she's going entirely out of her way to keep a safe distance from the other characters, and I would assume on top of that something secretive about where she's going. Maybe like wherever she heals is also where she keeps like any of her eggs. Like maybe she's got more young that she hasn't like hatched yet, or she's got other dragon offspring that she keeps safe. Who really knows? Like we could get like parts of Selene's backstory that make her more like they like delve more into her, the fact that she apparently has children and a dragon offspring. Like maybe she's like using all this magic to help them, and she's got like a double-edged kind of like setup where she's doing all this for like her joy and like messing with the magic, but there's also like a way more personal reason for it. Put it into like a rough spot of like, well, okay, then what are they gonna do against Selene if if defeating her puts her in a spot that would make it more difficult for like any of her offspring or anything to kind of like do anything. Because the thing about Selene that you do have to keep in mind is as a female dragon as well. She's one of the only ones possibly left. We don't know how many there are. We've only seen a handful of female dragons in the series, so you got to keep that in mind. Like, just her existence as one is that combined, obviously, like that she's got offspring already exist in existence. Like, we don't know how many female dragons there are, so it's like you have to, for the value of like their species, Selene like could be like a direct component and like bringing back dragons. Like, we don't really know, because like, say if there's only males left, then what are they gonna do? They're gonna get screwed. They're gonna eventually just die out, and there's gonna be no way to repopulate their species. But like, say if Selene's role ends up coming down to something like, not like her role, but like part of her existence. If they realize like getting rid of Selene might get rid of dragons in general, because she could be the last female currently alive. Who knows? It could be more. Again, maybe Vierness has dragons hidden somewhere inside of wherever he's at, or Ignia. But as of right now, the only one that we really have that has like any form of parental connection to any other dragons is Selene. And like, you can't really count Irene as a female dragon. You can look at like Grandine, and I still think Mother Glare, like, just because the name, shooting at the eggs, it's weird because like I don't think they really ever refer to Mother Glare's female, and at the same time, I think the anime gave her a more masculine voice, but at the same time, it's like, the name is Mother Glare, shoots eggs. It's like you went on your way to have this very female dragon setup with it, but it'd be very, I mean, I'm not going to complain, but it's very strange just to be like, yo, it's a dude. It's like, well, how does that work? Is it like the seahorse of dragons? It's carrying its eggs around? But either way, everything going on with Alta Face, like, it's very intriguing, because what exactly is Mishima planning if this creature, who is apparently the source of all magic in Elentir, like, he becomes sentient because of Selene's distorting and like messing with the magic in the world? Like, how exactly is that gonna work, like, going forward? That's one of the more, like, if not the most story intriguing aspect about this. Like, I could see Selene's secret wherever she's going as like more intriguing from the standpoint of that mystery coming up. But when it comes to just this right here, like where we're at right now, this is by far the weirdest plot point that we have, because what are they going to do with it? Are they going to destroy the main body? Is that going to destroy the magic in Elentir? How are they going to talk to it? How are they going to convince it otherwise? Like, that we're in a really odd scenario, because of the fact that this thing is a character within the story. Like, this thing existing like by itself is such a weird component thrown into the fray of things, because now the magic itself of Elentir is involved. It's not just, yeah, the magic's really potent, like the stuff around transcendent magic and all those things, but it's the fact that it's now gonna have dialogue, it's gonna be involved, and it should, I would assume, have a follow-up action. Like, are they gonna attack the main body, like I said, or if there's gonna be some form of information gathering from it, like maybe because it's sentient, they can talk to it and reason with it, and there could be something found out about it that would really benefit them. Like, what if they found out more about Selene? Like, maybe this thing is able to be like, oh yeah, Selene went to her world, whatever, her own personal dimension, you know, this and this and that, and like kind of explained a little bit about her that will give us some insight into Selene, some insight into the situation, and really give us a little bit of a look at like where things are going moving up, because this is a chapter that leaves how the arc is going to go so up in the air, because we know Selene got away, so that, like, it's not like her character is done, her arc is not over. Like, you know, this was her getting in a bad spot, she got caught, unfortunately, and she got hurt. She's going to recover, and hopefully the next time she runs into like Suzaku and Natsu and stuff, she takes them way more seriously, and that's going to be a big thing for her. Like, she doesn't have to be like instant, like, oh yeah, Suzaku 100% power, I gotta eradicate you or something, but like actually acknowledging that he's powerful, not just some human using dragon slaying magic like it's some spectacle. then that'll really benefit her. Because obviously, like if you get caught in a spot like where even if it's by somebody weaker than you and they have a means of damaging you or affecting you with one of their techniques, then you're screwed. Look at someone like what happened with Jura and Orga. Orga was going to use his particle cannon, like he's literally doing like about to shoot something that messes with things at like the atomic level. At Jura, Jura knew that it wasn't something he could just tank, because you can have something be used from someone way weaker than you, but if like the broken ability of the hacks is good enough, then they should be able to do it. I really wish we knew, like we had a description of Suzaku's Dragon Slaying magic, how Sword Saint Dragon Slaying magic works, but also how Black Blade works. His Black Blade Purgatory Slash what was it? Abyss Purgatory Black Blade Slash. Like if we had a description of how it worked, like there's some trick to it, there's some like OP description of like, oh well, it does this upon contact and does this and that, and it's like, oh well, that's a really broken sword attack, so it makes sense of why it would like do extra damage to Celine. Like at least right now, it's just like we can assume that being Suzaku's biggest normal attack is like the same as like Natsu using Dragon Force and then using Purgatory slashing Dragon Fire. It's a completely it's two completely different kind of like back things, because Suzaku does have Dragon Force, but we know that they can't use, like the 5th generation Dragon Eaters can't use Dragon Force the same way that other Dragon Slayers can. Theirs is way more rapid, and it clearly makes them lose control at some point, so Suzaku's not just going to whip that out. That's like their last resort. Like in reality, like I know that some people like meme a bit like on Gray for using Ice Shell. It's just weird because like he's only tried to use it twice. The time with Silver was a complete bluff, but it'd be like logically if you were actually going to use something like that, where it's like I can only realistically use this once. The stuff with like Irene undoing Nibaru's is something completely outside of what the Dragon Eaters would know about or be capable of. Like if you had somebody like Irene in their group almost as like a almost as like a mediator or like some form of moderator, it's like, oh, he's in Dragon Force, like okay, that's when we know that this character gets dispensed and goes to try and undo the effects of of these guys who recklessly went Dragon Force. So maybe Wendy could do that at some point. Wendy obviously having the potential to maybe be the fix to that problem, considering she's learning stuff from Irene. But right now, I would definitely say that's Suzaku's best attack. I mean, he was like looked like he was barely kind of keeping himself on his feet after using it. And that's like the same way for Natsu using Purgatory Slash and Dragonfire, because that's his all in. At least as of right now, that is his all-in move. In his all-out form, like that is his peak thing. The same way I would assume with Suzaku's. So, like the stuff with Celine, like when I was thinking about the chapter, it's like realistically you have two options if you were gonna cliffhanger one of them. You can cliffhanger what the main cast is doing, or you can cliffhanger what's going on with Suzaku and Celine. I think Suzaku and Celine was the better one to cliffhanger, not because this was the more important or more intriguing thing to see. Like obviously I would prefer to see like where Celine went, what she's gonna do, what Suzaku's like following after. I would prefer obviously to see those just based off of the characters involved and super curiosity around Celine's where Celine's going. But when you compare, like if we saw that chapter and we cliffhangered what's going on right now at the main cast and we wait until later to see stuff like Alta Face and whatnot, I think that this was a better choice, because I think if we saw the Celine Suzaku stuff and then got back to this, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting. Whereas with this is still really interesting and like a really cool part to have, but it would be like of a lower hype level than like we get through this part and then we see what's going on with Celine and Suzaku, where here we get like stuff of like Alta Face and the mystery behind it and stuff, and figuring out where like this side of the arc is going to go. And then bam, we get over to Celine and Suzaku, and then we see what she's doing, and that just kind of builds up on the hype. I think reversed, it wouldn't be nearly as hype getting to this stuff, like right after Celine and Suzaku, and like however their part of the story is going to progress. I think this was a better choice, just in reality of like thinking about where would you put this cliffhanger for the most beneficial effect from the readers. I do think this is a better choice. just because it'll be like a better piece once we get to the stuff with Suzaku and Celine. It'll have a little bit more attention and mystery built up to it. Whereas like the stuff here is cool, but I feel like not nearly as many people would be as hyped to, you know, get off of whatever Celine and Suzaku is doing and then get to this. Whereas in reverse, getting off to this to getting this where Celine and Suzaku are, will build a little bit more like hype fluid energy from like the main cast, and not the main cast, the readers, like fluid hype energy, like actually like getting more hyped as things progressing rather than just getting into a boring spot and then hyped up, or getting in a really hyped spot and then moving down to something that's not nearly as hype. You know, one of those things. It's still cool. I really like the Alta Face stuff. I like seeing Wendy do some detective work and figuring out like, okay, well, the thing about like the face that Tartarus used, like they all had something that kind of connected them, and she's like trying to think of like, well, what if they're all connected in some way and there's like a main body. Very smart on her, very intelligent for her to kind of figure out. I did like there's like a small note where she's like, oh yeah, well, after Tartarus I looked into that part a little bit, because there's a whole year after Tartarus before Alvarez starts. So it's like Wendy just looking into that isn't something ridiculous, especially considering she was directly involved in it. I definitely say that's completely okay with me. It's one of the things where it's like, oh, okay, sure. Like it'd be like if like Lucy looked into something about like the Aetherius like during that year. She didn't like become I am now a master of living magic. She's just like, oh, I looked into it and I literally just read some stuff about it. Nothing crazy, because Wendy didn't like pull out some new thing based off of that book. She's like, oh yeah, I looked into a little bit. Like nothing too much. And Virgo, I was actually happy that Virgo was in this chapter, because this is Virgo's bread and butter. Like they were gonna dig down and figure out where exactly the core was, and bam, Virgo, who's been digging holes since like her introduction to the series. This is like her best opportunity. Direct plot importance that involves needing holes to be dug. Like she's got this. Like the only way this could have been bigger for her would be if they actually needed pitfall traps, and then bam, bring Virgo in here. But yeah, I did think that was neat, because it was like a super nice little bit extra that I don't really think was required, because you could have literally just had them find a cave or just make a hole. Like Azu could have literally just dropped some demolition fists and then broke a hole down there. But Virgo definitely added a little bit of extra delight to the chapter, in my opinion. Not from like her whole BDSM kind of like thing that she likes to do, but I did just really like the whole idea of like, man, we need to dig a hole. We need somebody who's an expert at digging a hole, and then bam, they pull out like Lucy pulls out Virgo. Also, the moment when all the main cast like they kind of like rally up, they kind of like get in like a group huddle, and then, you know, they pretty much just shout like they know that they're gonna attack the main body. They all knew that. Even Lucy knew it as well, which I was super happy about. Like that made me really happy, because it showed like the main cast and like how well that they have that aspect of like just beating up something, just like going after it and like just attacking it is just like the most simple yet most effective way for like them as like pretty much combat wizards for the most part. Like Lucy's like weird, because she's like a makeshift combat wizard, because the rest of them, their fighting style is way more for actually like direct combat. Whereas like Lucy's obviously being summoner based, and she's got ways just to fight. It's really good to see like where they're all in the same mental wavelength. It reminds me of when it's not obviously the same context, but when Natsu had to take out the Tower of Heaven, and he was like really excited because he was like saying how destroying things is like the fairy tale wizard specialty. And it's like a little bit, yeah, throwing hands and like just kind of like wrecking stuff. It's not like they're down there like, we need you to solve this 80 tier ether nano code to this program that's like linked up to it. It's like, no, it's like, hey, we maybe just destroy the main thing, just blow it up, get it completely wrecked. Like that's to them like, all right, we can do that. Yeah, we can definitely do that kind of thing. Like they just activate easy mode in their brain of like, all we gotta do is break something up. Sweet. But the Alta Face stuff was very weird. Like it's definitely the most odd thing that's happened in a while. How it's like, because the closest real big plot twist we've got recently Besides that was Celine having sons, and it's like that one was just unsurprising. Or sorry, that one was surprising from the standpoint of like, oh, I didn't expect Celine to have like some more motherly ties to other characters, and later dragons, especially the connection to Suzaku's dragon specifically with Kurenugi. But hers was way more obviously in, oh well, I'm just surprised that she has sons. Like it, but at the same time, it's like, well, that makes complete sense. She's like 400 plus years old. Like it would make complete sense if she's been through some of like the times where whenever the dragons have their breeding season. So that one is like, okay, yeah, I just didn't really think about it. It wasn't something that ever crossed my mind, but it makes complete sense. Whereas the Alta Face stuff was something that I didn't see coming whatsoever. Like I even mentioned in the previous chapters when Wendy was like trying to figure out the connection between the hands and face. I was like, Wendy, I have absolutely no idea where you're going with this. Go ahead, just good. But like the stuff of all being linked and then like kind of putting two and two together to think like, well, they're coming out of the underground. Maybe it's something underground. And then bam, they're find Alta Face, and then it's apparently this big creature that is like, oh, because of Celine destroying the world, I gain sentience, and I am the source of magic in this gross world, and I'm gonna destroy all of it by filling it with magical power. So what's his plan gonna be? Is he pretty much just gonna try and overload it and blow it all up, or what? We're probably gonna get some insight into it next chapter. And I'm expecting them to have some form of a dialogue with it, because it's not just talking. It says it's gained sentience. It says it's gained like clearly a level of intelligence. Like it has free will. So I would assume that the main cast can try and negotiate with it, try and figure out like, hey, is there any way we can stop you from doing this? Maybe work out a bargain. Because if it was like something closer to Face, where it was just like some construct that was just going out of control, then I could see it being like, oh, okay, well, they have to destroy it, or they have to figure out how to shut it down. Whereas, like, here, it's like, well, this thing can talk, so maybe this thing can be reasoned with, question mark. But right now, it's gonna probably come down heavily on, like, that next conversation. Maybe they can figure out what exactly this guy needs in order to calm down. Like, what exactly does Alta Face need in order to be like, okay, I can probably pull these hands back? And are we going to get any information? If you remember the first hand that we saw coming into Elentir, that mark formed around it, and it attacked the main cast, like that weird tattooing style that kind of like went around like its wrist or whatever it would be. Like, does that have anything to do with Celine? Like, what is the large-scale connection that Alta Face is going to really do? Like, once we find out a little bit more about, like, it, are we going to figure out, like, the origins of Face? Are we going to find out, like, where these guys kind of sort of come from? Or is it just like, oh, yeah, they form from magic or something? Again, it's a very, like I said, it's a very weird plot twist because of the fact that it feels like almost like brand new big lore. I think that's one of the things about it that's so massive. It feels like something that is large scale, that will tie to like the large scale fairy tale kind of lore and story, kind of obviously like anytime we get like an introduction of like a dragon god, is like these are very important characters to a large scale story. So obviously like this is something that we got to pay attention to. Or I guess like when we first got Dragon God, like the first time we got the Dragon Gods brought up, it's like a whole new portion of the story and the lore that we haven't even really explored. Whereas like that could be Alta Face. Like we could figure out like these guys are created by someone. Like maybe there's some form of old godly crafter or something. Or there's some race of ancient super magic people that like pretty much were the ones that construct these god tier magical things. Kind of like how Nirvana had the Nervits, but like this is like these are like the legendary class of like people who are like that, like all these old tribes making things, and like what happened with the Phoenix and stuff. But it's like, oh no, these guys are the top notch of those. And then we could figure out like how they made Face and like what the plans with Alta Face and everything. But anyway, yeah, I definitely want to see what happened with Celine and like where's she going. But the Alta Face stuff, I really want to figure out where Mishima has plans for this. Like, where is it going? Where is this gonna lead? And like, what exactly are we gonna find out about like the world and stuff and future events just from this big weird fleshy face and hand construct. But anyway, other than that though, comment below, thumbs up the video with a front like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But on that, appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.